Girl Crush Country, where we are obsessed with women in country music. I'm Jess Wright in Nashville, Tennessee, and if you like your country music with a little bit of Southern rock and a little bit of blues, you are going to love this week's guest. Welcome, Lucie Tiger.
Thank you so much, Jess. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. For people who don't know about you yet, you're actually a very successful independent artist.
Thank you.
You have charted many songs on the Music Row charts. You have had multiple top 20 singles in Australia, a couple of top 20 albums in Australia.
Yep.
You won the Country Blues Song of the Year at Tamworth Country Music Festival. And then here in Nashville, you won just last fall the Josie Awards, which recognizes independent artists, the Best Country Vocalist.
Yes.
And I just saw, are you a nominee for 2026?
I am.
That's so cool. The exceptional vocal performance.
Yes, it was quite a surprise seeing that. They haven't put out all of their full categories yet, but to see that one was just like, oh my gosh. I never really considered myself an exceptionally talented singer. So it was really cool for them to be like, oh no, you're in this list.
Something cool that I noticed about the list, because it is, men and women in one list, but 8 of the 11 nominees are women.
Yes, I know. I kind of feel, I don't know, I'll probably get some hate for this. I feel like women can really stretch themselves. I feel like men can too, but the trend in the last little while has been that, that bro country, they're not hitting lots of notes and big notes. And so I feel like the men, could be exceptionally talented singers, but you just don't hear them do it.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like the women, we're all kind of trying to live up to, Carrie Underwood.
Well, yeah. And honestly, I think that for a long time, I think a lot of women felt like they had to be pigeonholed into a Carrie Underwood type box. But there's so much that women can do.
Yes.
Which I think is really cool about what Lainey Wilson is doing and what Ella Langley is doing and Megan Moroney and the women that are really making a lot of noise right now, because none of them is like each other and none of them is like anybody else.
They're all so unique.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
It is very cool. You just moved here in 2023, is that right?
I did.
So I didn't realize that. I think I became aware of your music when you put out Gasoline, so that would have been like 2020.
Yeah, that was 2020.
And so I don't think I had realized that you hadn't come over yet. What made you pull the trigger and decide to make the move?
Well, previously I couldn't make the move because of COVID.
Oh, yeah.
So I wanted to, but we, back in Australia, we couldn't even travel internationally until 2022.
Oh, wow.
Even if I wanted to. I suppose if I had a visa, I could have left. But if I did want to, come back, I would have had trouble. So, so that's why we ended up moving in 2023. But I think what made me sort of pull the trigger in terms of moving was I was living in Sydney, and Sydney's a really big city. It's like 5 million people. So it is huge. And whilst there is a lot of music venues, there are a lot, the music venues that we have are a lot bigger, but there's not a lot of spaces for artists kind of coming up.
Oh, so like the more intimate, smaller venues.
So you really have to, and this is what I found, you have to create your own stuff. And that's what we did a lot of in Sydney. So, I worked at a bar and I basically talked them into like having me play there.
Is that not a thing that's commonly done?
So it used to be very popular, and we used to have a lot of pubs that would have music. And that's basically how AC/DC and NXS started. And so they were all playing in these pubs. But there was a bit of a backlash against it, because then a lot of those pubs are in residential areas. And so then they would have the very loud music, and there would be people that would complain. And then, of course, the whole idea of, I don't know if you really have that over here, but the whole like a gastro pub kind of started.
I think it's sort of becoming a thing over the last several years.
Yeah, and so a lot of these pubs that were known for live music started to turn to that. And they would literally take out the stage and the lights and the sound system.
Oh.
Yeah. It was crazy. So a lot of the places that I was playing in when I was, younger, they just don't have music anymore, which is kind of crazy. So there was kind of this, there was very small venues, which I played a lot at. And there were also things that we would create ourselves. So we would talk to local councils and say, hey, what you've got this park area. How about during summer, you pay us to put music on and we'll put music on and you can like get some food trucks there and you can have like this sort of summer activation in this park and we'll run this aspect of it and you guys can run that aspect of it. And that worked really well because, people in Australia, we just love getting outside during summer. So that worked really well. It was just this lack of venues. And also if I wanted to be where the country music industry was, that was just in different places. It wasn't really in Sydney. There's a lot of it in Brisbane, in Queensland, and I just wasn't really keen on moving to Brisbane. I don't know. I feel like you get there's a lot of competitiveness with the cities in Australia, but a lot of people from Sydney are basically like, well, like I'm in Sydney, like why would I go somewhere else? Which sounds so horrible, but like, I mean, come on, like I live 15 minutes away from the beach.
Yeah. So
it's a pretty nice place to live, but there's just not a lot of music venues. So that was what really prompted me to kind of make the move, basically, because I love playing live. And radio was picking up my songs, and I just thought, everything seems to be happening for me over in the US. So I should just go there.
But then you picked Muscle Shoals as your first stop. Legendary for music, of course. Legendary for especially Southern rock and blues. So obviously I see the appeal. But was that specifically what made you pick Muscle Shoals instead of coming to Nashville like most people who come to make country music?
Yeah, I mean, most people do move to Nashville. And I thought, I've never been one to like follow the trend. And I thought, I like Nashville. Nashville's only 2 hours away. But I had done a lot of recording in the Shoals. So I have pretty much recorded everything since Gasoline in the Shoals. And I find it very easy to record there. There's a lot of really good players down there. The bass player that has been on every recording with me since Gasoline, Bob Ray, he has recorded with Ray Charles and Bob Dylan and toured with the Highwaymen and the Marshall Tucker Band. And he's just such a pro. Like he picks up on stuff that I don't even say, but he knows now, after all this time, he knows like my influences and he knows the stuff that I like. So he just plays something and then he's like, oh, would you like this? And I'm like, oh yeah, that, So I just knew so many people from recording that, I felt like I knew more people there. And then in the intervening years, I've just come up to Nashville so much that I now know way more people in Nashville. And so it's kind of an obvious choice to then like relocate. So yeah.
It seems to me, and I'm saying this from a very outside perspective because I have never been immersed in the music scene in Muscle Shoals, but it seems to me that would be more male dominated than even Nashville is. Was that your experience?
Oh yeah. And also, how do I say it diplomatically? Just more backwards, It's so funny because it's only 2 hours away, right? It's only 2 hours away. But it is so just, like male dominated. And it's just like, they have this festival every year, the Helen Keller Festival, which is like named after a woman with disabilities. How many women do they have on the lineup?
Oh, I can guess.
How many people with disabilities do they have on the lineup?
I can guess that too.
And so, and you kind of, you just like, at a certain point, you're just like, guys, what are you doing? And so it's one of those things where I tried to, in my own way, sort of find my own spot. And I did very well down there. I played the WC Handy Festival 2 years running, which is quite a big festival in town. And I also played the Muscle Shoals Songwriters Festival 3 years running. And, so I still play a lot of shows down there and regular shows, which is really nice. It's always nice to be like asked back somewhere. So, I have done, pretty well, but it is just so insanely male dominated. And it's so frustrating because, you've got people who are charting on radio, winning awards, who, are getting not picked in favor of men who are doing none of that.
Mm-hmm. And who are in many ways doing a lot of the same things as each other.
Yes, 100%. And so that does get very tiring. And I put together an all-female songwriters night.
I know. I want to talk to you about that. Walking the talk.
Yes, that's exactly right. Well, I thought, I'm not going to complain about this and not do anything about it because I hate complaining about something and not do anything. And look, sometimes it gets me in trouble because, I try to do things and people are like, oh, you can't do that here. And I'm like, watch me.
Good.
Okay. Maybe that means it should be done. But yeah, so we started the Songbird sessions and, we landed in September 2023 and our first Songbird sessions was March 2024.
You wasted no time.
Mm-hmm. We just hit the ground running. And I run that with my mum, Zena O'Connor, who does stuff with 2120 Music. And, we book the shows with that. And we really wanted to make sure that women in music down in the Shoals were kind of getting a night just of their own. And we ran that for 2.5 years before we moved it to Nashville.
Which starts this week.
Yes, it starts on Wednesday.
That's so exciting. Mm-hmm. I saw a post that you made about it probably last year or something. And the first comment under it was a guy saying, what, no guys on the lineup?
I specifically know exactly what post and what comment and who made that comment too. And I was like...
Did you know him?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, I personally know the guy. And I was just like... Because what had happened was right before that, because I was never on Facebook before I moved to the States. It's just not very big in Australia. But obviously, especially in, small towns, it's very big. And, so the Helen Keller Festival lineup had been announced. And I commented and said, for a festival named after a woman, you guys really could book more women on this bill. You've got, 2 women out of 10 acts? And it's really unfortunate because I actually know the guy who books it and he is really, really good and he's really pro-women and he's just pro-women in like across the board, not just in music, across the board. But he has this board that he has to deal with. Mm-hmm. And they're kind of the deciding vote. And I'd made that comment. And so then, of course, I think this comment was in response to that.
Okay. That makes so much more sense because I looked at it and I thought, never in the history of the world has a man looked at a lineup that's all men and gone, what, no women?
Right.
So to make that comment out of the blue just seems so bizarre to me. It makes a little bit more sense now. But still, shut up, dude.
Right? Go on.
Shut up, dude.
What are you doing?
Have you felt, other than the obvious lack of representation, have you felt that being a woman has been an obstacle in getting gigs and getting included in lineups and things?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. It's, and not necessarily Nashville. I don't see it happen so much in Nashville. Definitely. And I didn't see it happen in Sydney, like at all. Like it's just not a thing in Australia. As far as my experience goes. In Muscle Shoals, definitely. And, the other thing that happens there, which is unfortunate, is they have this fantastic history. They have this legacy and this fantastic history. But that history and that legacy just overshadows everything that's happening now. Mm-hmm. And it's just disappointing because I see so many really cool artists doing stuff in Muscle Shoals right now. And they just don't get the airtime, the screen time, the festival bill time as these older legacy acts. You've got Shoals Fest coming up. And yes, it is a festival created by Jason Isbell. And so, of course, he has, final say on what goes on. I get that. However, you've got guys like Dan Penn and Spooner Oldham on the stage. Did they write great songs? Yes, they did. Have they gotten a lot of accolades over the years because of that? Yes, they have. Could that spot on that lineup maybe be better, suited to a Shoals artist who is, coming up, who is doing good things? Doesn't have to be me. It doesn't have to be me.
Yeah.
But could that spot be better suited, for that? And unfortunately, I see that the focus in the Shoals is on the legacy, and it's at the expense of the newer artists. And then, of course, the legacy is basically 90% men.
I was going to mention that because when you think about the history of Muscle Shoals recording, majority of the successful artists who have come out of there have been men. Whereas when you think of Memphis and Sun Studios, maybe the majority were men still, but there are women you can think of who have played there.
Definitely.
And some of the legendary studios here in Nashville, too. You go, oh, Dolly recorded here and Patsy recorded here and
100%.
On and on. So even as male-dominated as Nashville is, I think that's why I had this perspective that Muscle Shoals was probably even more.
Oh, yeah.
More so.
And it is unfortunate because, there have been, some women who have done some really great things in the Shoals. Aretha Franklin and Cher have done some really awesome things in the Shoals. But they get overshadowed, I feel, by Leonard Skinner, who recorded their demos in the Shoals. And they did not release those at the time. They then re-recorded those in Georgia. And that's what got released.
Yeah.
Not the original stuff. That got released later, posthumously. I don't know who actually owned the masters on that. I don't know if Leonard Skinner wanted that released. I don't know the details. The Allman Brothers Band, Dwayne Allman, he did a handful of sessions back in the day. They're fantastic. And everything that I say, does not take away from how good that stuff was. At all.
Exactly.
But all of the stuff that the Allman Brothers then did that then made them a household name, they did in Georgia. So I just find it unfortunate that, there were big deal women there who did big deal stuff. Muscle Shoals Sound Studio, and everyone can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong, but they were about to shut down because no one was booking their studio when they first opened, and Cher came in and booked a session. And then she put the studio on the cover of her album and named the album 3614 Jackson Highway and put that on the album. And everyone then came to the studio and thought that it had that sign on the building, and it didn't. So then they went and got a sign that looks like her album cover.
Yeah.
And put that on the album.
And nobody in Muscle Shoals is talking about Cher.
No one's really talking about Cher. And so, there were women who put this town on the map, along with the men.
Yeah.
So it'd be great to hear more about that.
Well, let's talk about some of the up-and-coming women that you've come across that we should be on the lookout for.
Oh, yeah. There's this girl down there called Kristen Shores. She's fantastic. She actually records in the same studio that I do with some of the same guys. And she is great. She does this really cool mix of soul and R&B and almost jazz. She's got a number of songs that are just incredible. She's not really country, but you can get her on this podcast maybe. And she's actually up for a Josie award as well for, I think, R&B Vocalist of the Year. And so she's fantastic. She's a piano player, and she's doing some really cool things. And I'd really like to see her go far because she's just doing something different and something interesting. There's a whole host of people in that North Alabama area, which is really cool, that are doing cool things. There's another girl that I have booked on songwriter events, and I also just did a co-write with the other day, Alexis Jackson. She is fantastic. And what's really cool about these two is, Kristen is queer identifying, Alexis Jackson is African American. And when do you hear about either of those minorities in Alabama? So that's what I like to, to kind of promote for the young African-American girls to see Alexis Jackson, for the young girls who are maybe questioning whether they might be queer or not to see Kristen Shores, and to kind of be like, oh, I can be that and be confident And I think that is fantastic, what those two are doing.
Representation matters.
It does. It really does.
Who are your current country music girl crushes?
Ooh, well, I think I've got to say Ella Langley because she's just doing so well.
She's killing it.
It's insane. Yeah. And there are little bits of her songs that are just always forever stuck in my head all the time.
I don't know how she does it.
I love what she's doing. I think Miranda Lambert has always just been just done her own thing, which I think is really cool. She has never really stuck to like one sort of sound, which is kind of cool.
She doesn't have to.
Exactly. And I just think that is so cool. And that's what I often do as well, which is which you can do when you're independent.
Yeah.
I mean, Lainey, of course, she's just huge, you know, and she kind of just seems to take like every next challenge just like in stride, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And I was really lucky this year to go to CRS and I got to see Carter Faith. And she's just so unique, I feel. And she's just, I don't know, she's writing these songs that are just so like, whoa, like you really like feel what she's saying, which is really cool.
Yeah.
And then Avriana, of course, is just like knocking it out of the park and like kind of reminding everyone that like girls can rock out too, which I think is awesome.
Her performance at the ACM Awards was so good.
So good.
Yeah.
So good. So, and of course you get all of the comments saying like, what happened to country music? And it's like, oh, this is literally what some guys are doing, right?
Don't get me started about the...
that is another reason why I did leave Australia, because I did find that whilst Australia is pretty good with equality, in the country music industry, they are a bit old-fashioned. And so I felt at the time that, you know, I had a PR person say to me, this is like years ago, and they were saying, you know, so we're going to have to like pitch your stuff as alt country.
Oh, for crying out loud.
And I was like, why? Like, it's country rock. And she was like, well, but they just won't say it that way if it's a girl singing it. And she was being like straight up honest, and like it's not her that's making the rules.
Yeah.
But that was basically it. You know, the girls sing country pop. The boys can sing country. They can also sing country pop if they so wish, but they can also sing country rock. But the girls can't do country rock.
Right.
And it has changed a bit. There's you know, some girls doing a bit more country rock stuff, which is great now. But you know, a few years back, there just wasn't it was alt country if a girl wanted to be a bit more rocky. So it's just silly.
But even in the U.S., if you look at Miranda and her history, for a while she struggled with getting radio airplay because she was just an angry woman talking about killing her husband or whatever, you know, which, you know, today in 2026, as an aside, have you heard the Willow Avalon and Caitlin Butts?
Yes.
Hypothetically speaking.
It's so funny.
I'm so in love with that song.
I love it.
But, you know, when Miranda put out Gunpowder and Lead or Kerosene, and she's just a crazy, I mean, I know she gave herself the title Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, but also that's like, whoa, we can't put that on the radio. She murdered her. There's a gunshot on there. Nobody said anything about Garth Brooks songs where he's running a truck into the house to, you know, or the hotel. Right. But we can't put Miranda's Kerosene on the radio because, that's violence. Ooh,
oh, no.
So sorry.
Yeah. I mean, you know,
the double standard has been alive and well for a very long time.
I guess it's only men who commit 95% of violent crimes. So,
right.
you know, we really should
equality.
We really should step up, ladies. I don't know.
It's just a matter of equality. That's all it is.
You know, it's so silly, that sort of stuff. Because the funny thing is that, you know, I released a song, Harvest Moon, last year.
Yes, you did.
And, you know, we had so much fun writing it. And I love a murder ballad.
Same.
I love it when they get away with it.
Same.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like sometimes it's a bit lazy writing when they don't get away with it. It's like, how do we... Well, maybe she gets found out. Oh, and then she goes to jail. It's like boring. No one wants to sing along with that. Like...
Right.
We want to like ride off the cliff in the car, you know, like that's what we want. So, you know, I love that song, and that song did really well. That song charted on radio for ages, and Yeah, stations loved it.
And you're a big true crime fan like I am.
Yes, I'm a huge true crime fan.
I was going to ask you if it was based on a true story, but we're pleading the fifth. We're not.
It's probably based on a true story, just not mine.
Okay, fair. Your Honor, she didn't do it. She was with me the whole time.
Exactly.
That was that the beginning of the small town scandals?
So Tequila Talking was.
Tequila Talking, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So there was Tequila Talking, Devil's Telephone, and Harvest Moon. And they were like the first 3 singles.
Yeah.
Because I felt like, you know, you kind of like start out in a small town and you go out for drinks and everything's fine. And that's like the Tequila Talking, Hell in a Halter Top sort of vibe. But then, you know, people start talking behind your back.
Oh, no.
And that's like the Devil's Telephone stuff. And then, of course, you know, that's when, like, the proverbial hits the fan. And then Harvest Moon happens.
Yeah. Oopsies.
Oops.
And then you totally flip the script and you do Cowboy Love Me.
Yes.
So you're going from, like, I don't know, Dateline to Dating Game. I don't know.
Right? And so that again was like, the funny thing is get this, Harvest Moon and Cowboy Love Me were actually written with the same people. Cowboy Love Me had one extra writer on it, Maddie True, but then Mark Narmore and Stephanie C. Brown wrote them both with me.
How
so
funny.
It was the same people, which is funny.
It wasn't during the same write.
It was during different rights.
Okay.
Yeah, but that would have been even funnier. But yeah, it was the same people. And it's so funny because both Stephanie and Mark are like so just like sweet, like loving people. And then we write about
Like, let's write a murder ballad. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in. And then you just put out recently, Oh Preacher.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I love. This it's fun. It's upbeat. I love the line, grab a shovel, let's start digging. It ain't my fault you stopped sinning. I know the kind of man you used to be. Mm-hmm. Where did this come from?
So sometimes I feel like some songs just land in my head. I don't know. I've seen other songwriters talk about this, and it's hard to explain. Like, you'll just be just sitting there, right? And Oh Preacher, the first 2 lines, you know, oh preacher, tell me what to do. I got a long list of fools that I know we should be putting in the ground. And then the next one, you know, I don't need no Bible verses. They don't work out in West Texas, like, which I thought was funny. I have been to West Texas.
Yeah.
And West Texas is actually pretty cool. It's really nice. But I can imagine if you're like out there with no car in the middle of nowhere, you'd be like pretty screwed. Mm-hmm. So I was just in the studio actually in March, and I'd cut a whole bunch of songs, and we were like right at the end, and you know the guys in the band had like headed on home, and then those lines came into my head, and I was like, oh, what's this? What is this? You know, and I basically wrote that one, and I wrote Hell in a Halter Top just in the days after the session. I just had both of those just like come right into my mind.
Are you a like keep a notepad by the bed person in case an idea pops into your head?
I have
and you can't go to sleep?
I have like a note on my phone which is like as long as my arm.
Yeah.
With all of these ideas. Yep.
A word that I see come up for you quite a lot, whether it be in your social media posts or interviews, is chaotic. And obviously, there's a negative connotation to that, but I don't think that it's a negative word for you. I think it seems like you kind of thrive in that.
You know, I think when you are in a different country, different like customs, you know, you kind of like ask for chips and you get like a bag of chips, and what you actually wanted was fries, but we call them chips.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, okay, that's fine. You know, it is just chaotic, you know, and I think, I do think, I once had someone say to me at a day job, we were kind of talking about something, and she said, she was a general manager and I was working some like, you know, crappy job. And she was saying, you know what I think about you? And I said, okay, what? And she was like, you know, I'm the person that stops a disaster happening, but you're the person who handles it when it's already happening.
Oh,
and
wow.
And she was like, you're just really good at handling stuff, like when there's a disaster or an emergency or like this has happened or that's happened, you know, you like really good at handling it. And she said that I had, you know, really good like resilience, which I suppose I do. I mean, I think everyone gets to a point where they're just like, that's enough now. But, you know, I suppose I do kind of thrive a little bit in chaos. And I think, writing a song is chaotic. Like, you start with a chorus, but how do you get there?
Yeah.
And so often I will in fact start writing a song with the chorus, and then there'll be this like, okay, so those chords and the melody is like this, but how do you get from the beginning of the song to there? Like, that's a really chaotic way of doing something. Just the whole idea of having music as a career is like chaotic, because you'll kind of be, have like a day off and someone will text and be like, oh, hey, can you do a gig, like 2 hours from here, but for $300? And you'll be like, yeah, I can. Actually, yeah, I can.
Yeah.
But I also think that small towns are really chaotic. Mm-hmm. And I have found that I actually don't like that.
Yeah.
I really don't like that. I think when the chaos is like this just normal life chaos, it's kind of easy to deal with. But in the small towns, or especially in the shoals, the chaos is manufactured.
Yeah,
and
because there's
created.
nothing else to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I do not like that. I think that is just, life is chaotic enough, like already, even on a normal day. But and this is exactly what Devil's Telephone is about, the drama that gets created by people who are jealous is at another level. Mm-hmm. And that kind of chaos is just not good for you. And I don't like that.
Yeah, that's the bad kind of chaos for sure. Mm-hmm. I like that you so often seem to flip the script on, traditional themes and tropes in country music. And it's like the strong, empowered woman is always the one in charge, making the decisions, choosing the adventures. Has that been an intentional choice, or is that just a reflection of you as the strong woman?
I think it's a reflection of me, for sure. If people wanted to be unflattering, they could say that, I like to control things. So I kind of like to, prepare this and this person and this event and this schedule and, make sure that all my ducks are in a row. Because at the end of the day, I'm here on a visa. I can only make money from music. I have to hustle. I have to be prepared. I have to show up. I have to be professional. I have to, not phone it in. Like, I always have to be on top of my game all the time. So, I think that is just, for people who aren't very professional, it's just like this unnatural thing. Mm-hmm. But also at the same time, I hate surprises. I'm not a person who likes surprises. I do not want to surprise anything. I want to know where we're going for dinner. I want to know where we're planning on driving, the route we're going to take. Like, I do like to be prepared, and I don't like surprises. So I think, when you kind of combine those things, it's like, yeah, I am going to choose my own adventure, mm-hmm. because I don't want to be surprised and I want to be prepared.
And I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Yeah.
You're the only one who's going to look out for you.
That's right.
Yeah.
No one's coming to save me, but no one's coming to stop me.
Right. Is all of this music working toward a full album?
Yes.
Ooh, tell us everything you're allowed to tell us.
So it's coming in September.
Okay.
It is getting called Small Town Scandal.
Yes.
It did have a working title of, can I swear?
Yeah.
Oh, thank God. I was trying to be so good.
No, please.
Excellent.
Be bad.
I love it. It had a working title of Stupid Shit People Do in Small Towns.
Which I actually like better.
I actually like better too. But I really did think that it, ran the risk of, being explicit.
Yeah.
So I didn't do that. So,
but will there at least be a song called "Stupid Shit People Do in Small Towns"?
I never wrote that. But maybe I should try. Maybe I could knock out a little acoustic ditty or something.
Okay, good.
That'd be funny. But it is basically the sort of life cycle of, I guess, what I experienced kind of living in the shoals. What I experienced myself, what I saw other people experience, what I watched with my own eyes, and it is, because on the one hand, it's fun. you know, and it's fun going out to a bar at night and knowing a bunch of people. That's fun, you know, having a night out. And that's, you know, tequila talking. That's like Helena Halter Top. That's, you know, even Cowboy Love Me. It's like, you know, oh, there's this like new guy in town, like, oh, hey, you know, so that's how it kind of like begins, right? And then what happens is the town starts to work, and not necessarily all the time in a good way. And that's when you start to have like Devil's Telephone. And that's when you start to have, there's another song on the album called Love Moves Fast in a Small Town. And I've played it live a couple times, and it is a funny song. But, you know, I basically, what I saw was, you know, people, you know, hooking up and then breaking up and then making up and then cheating on that person that they made up with and then breaking up again and then hooking up with this person to make that person jealous. And then she hooks up with this person to make him jealous. And then, you know, and then they get back together, and the people that they kind of pursued when they were trying to make each other jealous are like, I'm sorry, I was just a pawn in your game. Like, watching this stuff happen was just like, what are people doing? Mm-hmm. Like, you know, they kind of did this stuff that I was just like in awe over, because everyone's going to talk about this.
It's like never outgrowing high school.
Yes. It was so high school. It was just like incredible. And then of course the gossip that comes with it. And then people just make up stuff with the gossip. And then you kind of like hear this story that got told to this person or that person, and that comes back to you, and you're like, what? Like, how do they even make that up? Like, ugh. And so then that's what that song's about. And so that's when it starts to get like not good. Mm-hmm. And I've got this other song that's on the album, and we actually did 2 versions of it. It's called The Devil Works Hard. And it is not a happy song. It is an angry song. And I don't write sad songs, but every now and then I write an angry song. And it is about, you know, what happens when you have like a feeling that, you know, he's not doing the right thing. And then you kind of just do a little bit of working out, and you figure out that, yeah, he's not.
We are all, women are in we should be in the CIA.
Right? I know. And so, you know, so that's what that, and we actually did like a normal version, and we did this crazy, like heavy version, which is so not me, but it just ended up being that way. And we were like, do we even put it on the album? It's like so crazy, but it's going to be almost like a bonus track because it's so crazy. Mm. All of that that manufactured chaos and drama then of course leads to things like Harvest Moon, where like someone's getting killed. Right?
Yeah.
To like Oh Preacher, where like someone's like on the run from something, and, you know, just devolves, and it's musically in a really cool way.
Yeah.
But, you know, just seeing this like life cycle happen is just like, oh my gosh, you know, it's like, I was only there for, you know, 2.5 years, but seeing the way that people just fall from grace because of their own actions that they were in control of the entire time.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's this word that no one seems to understand, which is consequences. And, you know, it is just crazy to see that.
Yeah. I'm excited to
makes
hear
for
the
good
album.
songwriting. Makes for great inspiration for songwriting.
Just from what you've said, I can't wait to hear the whole thing. Like,
so I
to
feel
listen
like
to it in a row.
Anyone that's lived in a small town for any length of time is going to be like fully sat, like ready.
Well, obviously we have Oh Preacher in the Girl Crush Country Spotify and Pandora playlist right now, and when you start putting out more stuff, we will be including that.
Thank you.
So yeah, absolutely. What's the next goal?
So the next goal is I've got a whole new sort of era that I'm basically like stepping into, which is really exciting because, as you probably figured out from the conversation, parts of living in the Shoals was positive. And it did, you know, let me do a lot of things that I probably wouldn't have been able to get to do in such a short time in Nashville. You know, play big festivals, you know, play really big venues, which is really cool. But, you know, with all that chaos and drama, it wasn't very positive, which is unfortunate. So, and then of course with the male dominated sort of aspect as well, like far more so than Nashville, it's just like, just exhausting, to be honest. So what I'm really looking forward to is kind of showing people, what this small town, experience can be like, and then sort of moving into this new era. And what I've written a lot about is previously is actually traveling. So gasoline, there's a lot of stuff about traveling in a lot of the previous stuff that I've done, and I really love traveling. I really love getting on the road. I love playing shows. So I'm doing that next month. I'm going out to the Southwest, which will be really cool. And I plan to get up to the Northeast as well, sometime maybe next year. So it'll be really cool to just, especially being in Nashville, it's just easier to get to places. So that'll be really cool to get a whole heap more inspiration for the next era. And I would like to, get a publishing deal, a record deal. So I'm working towards, doing that. I'm writing a lot. I love writing with people. So I'm doing a lot of songwriting up in Nashville at the Nashville Songwriters Association International, which is this awesome spot for songwriting. I love it. So yeah, I'm just more creating, more writing, more recording, all of the above.
I'll be interested to see your perspective coming from such a different country of how different the Northeast is from the South, from the Midwest, because they are very much like different countries, I think. I've lived all over the country myself, and it really feels in some instances that, I lived in Texas, and that is a completely different country than where I grew up in upstate New York. Even though I lived out in the country in upstate New York, Texas is its own country.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
It is fascinating when you get to see a lot of the country, and it really kind of opens your eyes to just different people's experiences, which I think is so just like necessary for empathy.
Yeah.
And so I've been really lucky to be able to get down to like the Mississippi Delta, which is really cool, like Clarksdale and Greenwood. I did a huge radio tour with my dad about a year ago, and we basically drove from Alabama. We hit spots in Arkansas, Oklahoma, Texas, and then I said to him, we've got to get from here in New Mexico to here in Arizona. We can either go 5 hours or we can go 9 hours. And he's going, why would we drive 9 hours when we can go 5 hours? And I said, well, because we could see Monument Valley. And he was like, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll take that.
A lot of really cool stuff to see in this country,
yeah.
So.
And I'm always one for, if we just go this way, we could see that. And so then we drove all the way up to Oregon and then over to like North Dakota. And it was so cool being able to see these different, parts, the Midwest, the West Coast, I guess like sort of the Great Lakes, like Wisconsin, Illinois. That was really neat. It's great. I think everyone should, if they can, just get out and see more of the country and meet more people and, understand like, someone else's experience. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think as a songwriter, it's almost like crucial, because otherwise you're only writing stuff that you've experienced, and I don't know, like if you haven't kind of gotten out much, then
I feel like that's maybe why we have so many songs about bonfires and pickup trucks and drinking in fields.
It might be.
It's just a guess. I've already kept you longer than I said that I would. Do you mind doing a quick flash round?
Yes.
To wrap things up?
I love these.
Okay. Would you rather write with Taylor or Miranda?
That's a really hard question.
I used to ask Dolly or Loretta, and obviously one of those is not an option regardless anymore, sadly. But I thought this is I feel like this is a good pairing.
Oof. I don't know. I mean, I really do like Taylor Swift's stuff. Mm-hmm. And I actually really like her newer stuff. I really do.
And even though she's gone fully pop as an artist, she's still writing stuff that is country as
translatable for sure. I think I would actually with this pair up. If you'd said Taylor Swift or Chris Stapleton, I would have said Chris Stapleton. But I think I would have to say Taylor Swift because she's just so, this is going to sound lame, fearless with what she does. And I think that's really cool. And I think Miranda Lambert is too in a different way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good thing you don't have to make that choice, isn't it?
I know.
If you could invent a holiday, what would it celebrate?
Well, it would definitely be in summer, first of all.
Amen to that.
Because everyone needs a day off in summer. It would celebrate animals. I'm a really big animal advocate. I have 4 cats. I love dogs too. I'm a really big advocate for, people adopting animals as well. All of my pets have always been shelter pets, except one. A friend had kittens, and ironically, that was the only cat that I brought home that was covered in fleas.
Oh.
All of the ones from the shelters did not have fleas.
But by the way, this is also a connection point for you with Miranda Lambert.
I know. So maybe we could do that instead together. And I feel like a lot of focus is on like dog adoption, which is really great. I love to see it. I don't want to take anything away from that. I would like to help more cats get adopted because I see, especially in the shoals, it is shocking how many stray cats there are. And no one gets their cat fixed. So then there's like kittens everywhere. And I'm just like, guys, come on. Like, keep them inside at night. Keep them inside at night because there's coyotes. Keep them inside at night because there's traffic. And also so that they don't go out and do things. And also get them fixed.
Yeah.
So I would definitely want a day off that was... honouring animals. I feel like all the really important stuff already gets a day off. So I feel like that would be something that could get a bit of a light shined on.
I'd vote for it. So would my dogs. What is your go-to karaoke song?
Oh, it's going to be Gunpowder and Lead.
Okay. Yeah. So we're saying a little bit of a trend here.
Yeah. It's going to be that. It's good. It's crowd pleaser. It's like a classic, but it's not too old. Yeah.
I love it. Lucie Tiger, it has been so fun getting to know you.
Thank you.
I'm so glad you could come by and do this.
Thank you. I feel like all I do is complain about men and small towns, but I promise I do like men, that they are fun to have around, and small towns can be really cute. In fact, one of my favorite small towns is, I got to do a shout out, Williams, Arizona. I'm playing a show there next month, and it is the cutest small town, and everyone there is so fun.
And we always specify here, we are not anti-men, we are pro-women.
Exactly.
So if you love what we're doing here, which is elevating the voices of women in country music, join the mission. Subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on all the socials at Girl Crush Country, and sign up for the newsletter and get the merch and get the heads up on the new interviews and music news and new releases and everything right in your inbox when you subscribe at girlcrushcountry.com.